Members' questions. But can I ask members who wish to ask supplementary questions to stand up and state supplementary, and also that any supplementary questions are put forward clearly and briefly. So, Councillor Osborne.
Question number 1 to the leader, please.
Madam Mayor, I thank Councillor Osborne for his question. Of course, Councillor Osborne's first question is well known. I think officers prepare the answer long before he asks the question, because they know that this is a kind of an old faithful. But the bit in his second limb of this question is one where Councillor Osborne comes true to life. Is he responsible in trying to make this suggestions that we are perilously close to not discharging our statutory functions? We are in this mess not because of this side, we are in this mess because of that side. But the interesting thing also is that every time we've talked about the financial challenge, Councillor Osborne and his colleagues have always said that they are responsible, they will support the right savings and so on. And yet the record of their activities on this council shows that they have generally never supported savings. The savings they have either abstained in supporting or not supported amount to just over £2.8 million, and that you can just calculate what it would mean in terms of the council tax increases. So they say one thing and promise and do another.
Councillor Osborne.
Can I ask the leader, will he always respond to this problem of finances by cutting frontline services and bringing our statutory duties perilously close to failure? Or will he look at alternative sources of funding, for example, the astonishingly high rates of pay for our senior executives?
Leader.
Madam Mayor, it's astonishing that Councillor Osborne usually talks about savings with the same sort of list of things that he thinks will solve our problems like this. Officers are in danger of working free and in fact paying us to work if every time Councillor Osborne suggested that they should take a pay cut was going to be implemented. What Councillor Osborne does not recognise is that we looked at every way in which to make our books balance. We have increased income where appropriate, we have cut back office costs where possible, we have minimised the impact on frontline in every area we can, and at the same time we have made sure that every aspect of this council is constantly reviewed and to ensure that there is both value for money and actually delivery of the objectives, which is to set a balanced budget, unlike of course his party of many years.
Supplementary, Madam Mayor.
Councillor
Just to return to Councillor Osborne's question of the leader, Part B about licensed premises. Can the leader confirm that the flexible risk-based approach adopted by both Environmental Services and the Council's licensing service over many years now has been both exemplary and widely appreciated by borough residents and will continue to be so for very many more?
Thank you, Councillor.
I thank Councillor McCausland for his supplementary. I mean, Councillor McCausland is absolutely right. We are looking at different ways of discharging our responsibilities. Looking at Environment Services responsibilities, we are ensuring that we're not inspecting just for the hell of it. We are inspecting in order to catch the problem and in fact support the business to get it right, rather than just simply go around because it's Monday, therefore it must be their turn for us to go and knock on their door.
Second.
Question number 2 to the leader, please.
I thank Councillor Osborne for his question. You know, it's right that one should never be complacent about any instance of bullying or discrimination in an organisation, particularly one which is expected to set high standards. What Councillor Osborne is remarkable in sort of ramping up is talking about relatively small figures in this rather more colourful language in his question. What is worthy to note is between 2011 and 2013, in fact, we have had a steady decline in the instances of bullying and discrimination in this council. And at the same time, we have had some remarkable sort of figures in terms of staff feeling that they're able to influence change at work, up by 8%. Changes being well explained, with staff management taking time to explain it, up by 16%. Change within the council is well managed, up by 17%. So there is satisfaction amongst our staff. There is some instances where management need to take action, and I am absolutely certain that management take this aspect of their responsibilities seriously.
Councillor Osborne.
Can I ask, does the leader also believe that these are relatively small figures? I only picked 3. Recent changes have been planned well. 52% of staff disagree. More could be done to help staff prepare for and cope with change. 80% agree. I believe things will improve over the next 12 months. 63% of staff disagree. And can you tell us which departments performed least well in the survey?
I thank Councillor Osborne for his supplementary. Well, I can't tell you which department performed least well or which... Well, I can't because I don't have the actual report in front of me. But if you care to, I will happy to write to you. And in fact, you will have seen the detailed report yourself, and you would have worked out exactly what is what. But what is important, and Councillor Osborne fails to recognise and compliment this council for, is that we actually do recognise that these are difficult times for both our residents and our staff. And we have taken great care to ensure that our staff are consulted and their views are taken into account. Year on year, their views are reflected in both the way management interact with staff and how services are planned. So in a very wide-ranging survey, and we are happy to share the whole survey with everyone as we have, in a very wide-ranging survey, you will find that there are some areas in which the council does not perform as well, and in some areas it performs exceptionally well. But overall tenor of the staff survey results is that between 2011 and 2013, our staff are more satisfied, better informed, more confident that this council has the right approach, and in engaging with them is fair and equitable.
Councillor Caddy, second supplementary.
Supplemental, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I deplore workplace bullying and discrimination, as I'm sure everybody else here does. But I am slightly concerned about the link that seems to be sort of being implied between that and the restructuring that's going on. I don't think that's a rational link. Does the leader agree with me that it's not a rational link? And also that perhaps we can use the restructuring to perhaps help align and sort of develop HR policies across the council.
I thank Councillor Caddy for a supplement. I mean, she's absolutely right in saying that in times of great change, there are staff who feel uncertain and unsure, but to make that link between these results and the change that we are necessarily having to make is both wrong and actually trying to create trouble where trouble isn't there. What is important is that at times of change we need to be fair in implementing the change, engage staff in a fair and proper manner and take them with the direction of change, and that is exactly what this council is doing.
Thank you, Leader. Item 3. Councillor Delhi.
Question number 3 to the leader.
I thank Councillor Nadelli for this question, and a very important question too, at a time when today's jobless figures show yet another improvement in the number of people at work. And in this borough, as the answer says, in a very short period of time, our work match program has managed to find 16 people employment. And it just shows that what a can-do approach this council has. We have huge ambitions that the growth we have unlocked in large parts of our borough actually benefits our residents. And as the first paragraph, my answer says that we have worked hard to provide the opportunity for that job to happen. We saw the need for Northern Line extension as being a key to opening up that regeneration of Nine Elms, and we worked to achieve that. We now think it is time that the jobs that will be created in that area and elsewhere should benefit our residents wherever possible. And I am absolutely determined that we get the best share and the largest share of the new jobs for our residents. You'll be interested, Councillor Nardelli, that like next week we have a jobs fair in your own ward where we have major employers and contractors spending a whole day engaging with local residents, both and school children, to say, well, not only is it a job today, a job opportunity today, but if they get it right, there are job opportunities for them for the future. So huge efforts being made by the council, some initial positive successes work match, and my commitment that we will continue to work to provide jobs for our young and older people.
First, second supplementary then? Right, we move on. Question 4, please, numbers.
I'll ask question 4 of the leader on behalf of Councillor Cooper.
I thank Councillor Randall for Councillor Cooper's question. But no, I appreciate that. I think what the answer shows, that between before and now, what we have got is more boots on the ground. That is what the review of the policing model suggested would happen. The figures show that that has happened, and this is in conjunction with crime figures falling. So we have more boots on the ground, crime falling. That has obviously got to be a win-win situation.
Councillor.
I thank the leader for his answer. I'm very interested in that he says that this results in more boots on the ground. It does show that there seems to have been an overall increase in numbers of 10. However, this is in the context of the police officers taking on increased roles, answering all the non-emergency calls and spending much more time in their cars. We are guaranteed fewer boots on the street with this model. And also, would he comment on this council as a whole fought to get the Tooting Town Centre Safer Neighbourhood team, and with this local model it has, to all intents and purposes, gone. So we are going to lose that, which is a shame and brings with it great risks. And also, at the same time, we're losing the priority setting that's done in the Safer Neighbourhood teams, because we are being offered set priorities now under this local policing model. So could he sort of also comment on maybe that the loss of the link between residents and local people and the police in how they decide that police are going to carry out local policing?
I thank Councillor Randall for a supplementary. It reminds me of my attending of the SNT meetings in Nightingale Ward. And I remember on a regular basis the priorities identified by a dozen people who came to that meeting, always the same dozen, and always the same dozen at an SNT meeting as any other meeting about public engagement. And their top priority for that ward was pavement cycling. And yet I would have thought that there were more serious concerns for the wider community that was not present at SNT. So I don't poo-poo the relationship between local residents and the police. I think it's an important relationship, but you do need to actually put it in a real perspective. Having a meeting between the 10 or 12 same people and the police to come up with a priority which are like individual bugbears, and rather than priorities of a wider area, isn't very helpful. As far as the kind of some of the other details Councillor Randall raised in a supplementary, these are early days in some ways. This is a new model just coming through. It will improve, and in time it will deliver what it is going to deliver. I certainly don't agree with her that because police do paperwork, that it is not policing. Paperwork is an important part of policing.
Second supplementary, Mr. Mayor. Madam Mayor, sorry. Thank you. Does the leader share my dismay that the opposition is obsessing about micromanaging the deployment of individual police officers, and 5 years ago at that, when the vast majority of residents care much more about the total number of police officers working to prevent crime, catch criminals and keep Wandsworth the safest inner London borough?
May I thank Councillor Clay for her supplementary, and she's absolutely right as well. But of course, the falling crime in Wandsworth is 5%, not a small insignificant sum, and that fall in crime has been brought about by preventative work, and because this council has shown prevention is better than the cure. Councillor Mrs. Tracy's work in the area of safeguarding children has produced enormous advantages, not only for this council, but also for young people, that they have been prevented from falling into an abyss. And that is the right approach. Prevention is always better than the cure.
Item 5, Councillor Nichols.
I thank Councillor Nichols for her question. We recognise that Roehampton Ward suffered from health inequalities, and when we got the responsibility for public health, we decided that it was right that we should do something about it, and the answer details the benefits of that. And of course, if it works in Roehampton, which looks like it is working, we will roll it out to another area in the borough where there are health inequalities, and that's Latchmere. What's also quite interesting is that the 20 volunteers and the 40 community champions that we have been able to recruit in Roehampton sort of has certain echoes of big society. It has got echoes of community empowerment and all that. And I'm heartened that the community empowerment in Roehampton is going well. It now includes, I understand, a gentleman called Adam Gray, who's been, become extraordinarily community active and seeks to speak for much of Roehampton, I understand.
Councillor Nichols.
First supplementary. Perhaps the leader could inform me how else Wandsworth is pushing forward with the new public health agenda.
Well, the public health agenda is a vast agenda, and I think what the council's views that we need to understand exactly what the scale of public health involvement in the borough was and is, and then, in fact, get it to align more closely with the priorities identified by the Health and Wellbeing Board as well as other parts of the council. And what is happening in Roehampton, going back to the theme of prevention better than cure, what's happening in Roehampton is exactly that. We're identifying some of the areas of poor outcomes which particularly afflict Roehampton, and tackling that in order to improve the health and well-being of those residents.
Second supplementary, Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. I want to really endorse this initiative that the public health is putting into Roehampton, because in Roehampton, on average, people die 7 years earlier than they do in Wandsworth as a whole, and that is absolutely shocking. And we need to do everything we can to reduce that gap as quickly as we can. So it's a really good initiative, and I think it's really important that we have these people initiatives as well as the place initiatives in regeneration. The two need to go together. We need to improve the whole community. So I welcome this. That's not a question, it's a statement.
Thank you, Councillor.
I thank Councillor Carpenter for his supplementary, and I think I'd like to recognise his support for the Council's regeneration initiative in Roehampton. And what he's just said is exactly in tune with our ambitions for Roehampton, and I welcome his support for this. He's absolutely right that regeneration is not about bricks and mortar alone. It is about changing the life outcomes of people who live in those bricks and mortars. And it isn't just about health alone, it is about skills, it is about training, it is about job opportunities as well. And as earlier question about work and skills said, we have ambitions in that direction. We have ambitions in improving health outcomes. We have ambitions in changing the physical environment of these two particularly needy parts of the borough. And that's all been unlocked by this council, even in these very difficult times, actually having a drive, imagination and ambition.
Councillor Carpenter, question.
Question 6 to the leader.
Following warm words to Councillor Carpenter, I have to say that I think he was the last person in the council who might have made the mistake of comparing apples with pears. I'm afraid he has, and the answer very plainly points out he has, and I'm sure he's satisfied with that.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. I take it then that you agree that in line with your answer to question 6 to the last council, that the total expected spend of the council over the 3 years to 2013-14 will be some 176 million more than it was in 2010-11. Given this profligacy by Wandsworth Council, is the leader surprised that the Chancellor is forecast to exceed his own forecast for national debt by some £200 billion by the end of this Parliament?
Leader.
Obviously, Councillor Carpenter has been doing wonderful and steady work on his abacus. If he says those are the figures, those must be the figures. But what, again, he fails to understand is that the basic tenet of forecasting is the forecasting is as good as the assumptions you put into it. And it can go wildly wrong on a sort of simple elementary error in one of the assumptions made. So what there is going to happen in the future is the best guess is what the paper set out, and we will make sure that we respond accordingly.
Second, Councillor MacDonald.
A somewhat simpler supplementary, Mr. Mayor. It's easy to be in opposition sometimes. May I ask the leader how much greater he thinks council tax would be if Labour had been successful in opposing all the cuts it's openly challenged since, for argument's sake, 2010?
Leader.
No, it happens. But, you know, Councillor Carpenter talks about answers at previous council meetings. So I did look at answers at previous council meetings and brought them up to date. So there was a question at the previous council meeting about what would the situation be if all the changes we propose and they oppose or abstain on were to come through according to their way of looking at council expenses. And it says that about 28 odd million pounds worth of savings that we proposed, that they opposed or abstained on, which would have resulted in a £249.53 increase in council tax, 64.2% increase in council tax. Recently I had occasion to say to the Secretary of State that it is quite possible in due course Wandsworth might have to have a tax increase above his referendum limits. I think he would have had a heart attack if I'd mentioned 64.2%. So their profligacy, I think Councillor Carpenter used the word profligacy, their profligacy is for all to see.
Thank you, Leader. The time for questions to the Leader is now over.